I guess I've always known but never really thought about it too much until recently. Turns out, I'm the golden child. Yeah, I know. That sounds kind of dramatic, but hear me out. I've got this older sister, Lily. She's 16, I'm 15, so we're not that far apart age-wise, like, what, a year and a half? But man, we're totally different people. So to give you an idea, I'm the type who's always out with friends playing soccer or just hanging out. I love being social. And honestly, even though I hate studying, I do all right in school. You know those kids who don't really try but somehow manage to pull off decent grades? That's me. I've always been good with people, teachers included. So even though I mess around a bit, they still like me. But Lily, she's nothing like me. She's super shy, hates crowds, and would rather spend a Saturday night buried in some book than hanging out with friends. Not that she doesn't have friends, but she's just different. She's the quiet one in class, top of her grade with a 4.0 GPA, but she barely talks to anyone outside of her small circle. She's the kind of person who just stays in her room all day. And I used to think that was just her choice, you know? Growing up, Lily would always say stuff like, "Mom likes you more," or "You always get everything handed to you." I didn't really take her seriously. I mean, I didn't feel like I was being spoiled or anything. Our mom, Jane, would always tell me to ignore her. "She's just jealous," Mom would say. And honestly, I bought into that. I mean, why wouldn't I? I never noticed anything weird, so I figured Lily was just being dramatic. Then something happened recently that made me start thinking. So out of nowhere, Mom decides it's a good idea to take both me and Lily to some clinic for a psychological evaluation. Like full-on testing, IQ, memory, personality stuff, the works. Lily was stressed about college and what she wanted to do with her life, so it made sense for her, but for me, I was like, why am I here? But whatever, I went along with it. The tests were brutal, though. I'm talking hours of filling out forms, answering questions, doing these brain games, and memory exercises. By the end of it, I was just glad it was over. But when the results came back, that's when things started getting weird. Lily, she crushed it. Like, seriously, she's got an IQ of 140. I mean, that's genius level, right? And me? I got 122, which is still good, but damn, I always thought I was the smart one because I never studied and still did all right. Turns out Lily's been working her ass off and still doing better than me. And I'm not gonna lie, that threw me off. But here's the thing. It wasn't just the IQ. There were other tests too, like spatial reasoning, memory, stuff like that. The only test I did better than her on was the memory test, but barely. And when I saw that, I started questioning everything, like, have I just been coasting this whole time, thinking I'm hot shit while Lily's been silently outperforming me in everything? So I didn't think much about it at first. I figured, okay, she's smart, good for her. But then, a couple of days later, Mom pulls out some old home videos. You know, the kind parents keep from when you're little. I thought it'd be fun to watch them, see us as kids again. But as we're going through them, I noticed something that really threw me. Almost every single video was of me. Me singing, me dancing, me talking to the camera. Lily? She was barely in any of them. I mean, it's not like she wasn't around. She's in the background sometimes, but the camera was always on me. I asked Mom about it, and she shrugged it off, saying Lily didn't like being in front of the camera. But like, she was 1 to 4 years old in most of these videos. What toddler is camera shy? And then I started thinking about birthdays. Man, I had 6 big birthday parties when I was growing up. I'm talking cakes, balloons, the whole deal. But Lily, she had like 3. How the hell did I not notice that before? She's older than me, but somehow I got twice as many birthday parties. It was like everything was starting to click into place. I mean, I always thought I just had a great childhood, and maybe I did, but Lily, she didn't get the same deal. The worst part? I never even realized. There's this one moment that sticks with me. We were watching a video from my middle school graduation, right? The whole family was there cheering me on. But when I asked about Lily's graduation, Mom just said, "Oh, we didn't get any video of that one." I mean, what? How do you forget to record your kid's graduation? That was when I started feeling like maybe Lily was right all along. So now I'm sitting here piecing it all together, and I can't help but feel kind of embarrassed. Like, how did I miss this? How did I go my whole life not noticing that I was the golden child and Lily was, well, not? And what's worse is, I don't know how to bring this up with her. I mean, what do I even say? Hey, sorry I've been the favorite this whole time, and you were right about Mom. I've been avoiding talking to anyone about it. I don't want to bring it up with my friends because it feels weird, and I definitely don't want to talk to Mom. I feel like if I tell Lily, she'll just say, "I told you so." And honestly, I can't blame her if she does. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I'm the golden child, and I had no idea. Now I've got to figure out how to deal with this without making things worse. So, After that whole thing with the IQ tests and everything, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Like, it wasn't just some random thought that crossed my mind and then disappeared. It was stuck there, bothering me all the time, especially after the home videos. It was like this whole other reality hit me, and I couldn't shake it off. The thing is, I hadn't really talked to Lily about any of it yet. I didn't know how to bring it up without sounding like a total jerk, but I also couldn't ignore the feeling that I'd been seeing things completely wrong for years. And you know that feeling when you suddenly realize something and then all of a sudden you start noticing more and more things that back it up? Yeah, that's what happened next. One afternoon, a couple of days after watching the videos, I was chilling in the living room, half watching some random show on Netflix. Mom was in the kitchen, talking on the phone with someone. I wasn't paying much attention at first, but then I overheard her saying something that caught my ear. She was talking about Lily's grades, which wasn't weird since Lily's always been the straight A student. But the way she said it just rubbed me the wrong way. She was like, yeah, Lily's always been the quiet one. She's smart, but she just doesn't have the same spark Matt does, you know? He's got that charisma. People just gravitate towards him. And I'm sitting there thinking, wait, what? It wasn't like she was saying Lily was dumb, but it definitely sounded like she didn't think as highly of her as she did of me. I'm not gonna lie, it made me feel kind of weird, especially after everything that had been swirling in my head lately. After she hung up, I didn't even bother trying to be subtle. I straight up asked her, why'd you say that about Lily? Mom looked at me a bit surprised. What do you mean? You said Lily doesn't have the same, what, spark? She gave me one of those half shrugs like it was no big deal. It's just true, Matt. You've always had that natural ability to connect with people. Lily's more introverted. There's nothing wrong with that. I didn't know what to say at that moment. On the one hand, I guess I understood what she meant, but on the other hand, it just felt wrong. Like, why does one of us have to be better in social situations? And why was she saying it like it was some competition? I don't know. Maybe I was overthinking it, but the whole conversation just stuck with me. Later that night, I couldn't stop thinking about what Mom had said. So I did something I probably should have done a long time ago. I went and knocked on Lily's door. Now, Lily isn't exactly the easiest person to talk to. She's not rude or anything, but she's always been more closed off. And I guess I hadn't really tried hard enough to break through that. She opened the door, looking a bit confused to see me standing there. What's up? I felt kinda awkward, but I just went for it. Can we talk? She raised an eyebrow, but stepped aside and let me in. Her room was neat, as always, with books stacked on the shelves and her desk super organized. Mine's a mess, so walking into her room always feels like I'm stepping into some parallel universe where people actually have their lives together. I sat down on the edge of her bed and she sat down in her desk chair, spinning it a little. We sat there in silence for a second before I finally spoke. I've been thinking about, well, a lot of stuff lately, about us. Her face was kind of blank, but I could tell she was listening. Like what? I don't know, like how things have been between us, and with Mom. I paused, not sure how to say the next part without sounding like a total idiot. I think I've been, I don't know, blind? Like, I never noticed how Mom treats us differently. Lily didn't say anything for a moment, and I started to think maybe I'd made a mistake bringing it up, but then she let out a small laugh. You're just figuring that out now? Her tone wasn't mean, but it wasn't exactly friendly either. It was more like tired. Like she'd been holding this in for a long time and didn't have the energy to really get into it. I guess so, I said, feeling like an idiot. I honestly never thought about it. Lily shrugged. I'm not surprised. Mom's always liked you more. I've known that for a long time. That hit me harder than I expected. I mean, I knew she probably felt that way, but hearing her say it so matter-of-factly, it kind of stung. Why didn't you ever say anything? I did, she said, looking at me like I'd missed something obvious. A bunch of times. You just didn't listen, or maybe you didn't care. Oof, that hurt. I didn't know what to say to that, so I just sat there feeling like the world's biggest jerk. I'm sorry. Lily sighed and looked down at her hands. It's not like it's your fault. It's not like you asked for it. But yeah, it sucks sometimes. I nodded, not really knowing how to fix this. I didn't realize it was that bad. I thought you were just, being dramatic. She looked up at me, and for the first time in a while, I could see the hurt in her eyes. I wasn't. There was this awkward silence again, and I didn't know what else to say. I felt like I had screwed everything up for years, and now it was all crashing down on me. I'm really sorry, Lily. I should have noticed. I don't know why I didn't. Lily shrugged again, but this time it seemed less dismissive. Like I said, it's not your fault. You can't help how mom acts. I'm gonna try to be better, I told her, even though it sounded lame coming out of my mouth. I don't want you to feel like this anymore. She didn't respond right away, but eventually she nodded. Thanks. And that was it. We didn't have some big emotional heart-to-heart where everything got fixed, but at least I finally said something. I don't know if it'll change anything, but I guess it's a start. After that, I went back to my room, feeling a weird mix of relief and guilt. I still don't know how to fix everything, but I'm trying to figure it out. And for now, that's the best I can do. So after that talk with Lily, things were weird. Not like completely awkward, but you know when something's just off? Like you both know something happened, but neither of you is really sure how to act afterward? Yeah, that's how it felt. We were both kind of tiptoeing around each other, trying not to make it more uncomfortable than it already was. But then, all this personal drama got shoved to the back of my mind because of some major school crap that went down. And when I say major, I mean everyone was talking about it. So, let me backtrack a bit. Our school's principal, Mr. Thompson, is this super strict old school guy. You know the type. Always walking around with that stern look like he's just waiting to catch you breaking a rule. But at the same time, people thought he was a decent dude. Fair, even if he was a hard ass. My mom was all buddy-buddy with him because she's on the school board, and they'd worked on a few projects together. Anyway, out of nowhere, rumors started flying around that Mr. Thompson was in deep trouble. At first, no one really knew what was going on. Some kids were saying he got caught with something illegal in his office. Others were saying he was having an affair with one of the teachers. You know how school rumors are. Crazy. But you never know if there's a little bit of truth in them. A couple of days later, things got serious. Mr. Thompson didn't show up for school, and a sub was filling in for him. Teachers were whispering to each other in the hallways, and students were all buzzing about what could have happened. Then, during lunch, the hammer dropped. My buddy Tom came rushing over to our table, practically out of breath, and said, "Dude, Mr. Thompson got fired." Everyone at the table went silent for a second. "Wait, what?" I said, completely shocked. "Yeah, man, he's gone. My sister's a senior, and she heard from one of her teachers that it's something to do with money. Like, he's been stealing from the school or some shit." That hit like a punch to the gut. I mean, I wasn't exactly Mr. Thompson's biggest fan, but still, the guy was the principal. He practically ran the place. The idea that he'd been stealing from the school? It didn't seem real. Tom continued. Apparently, they found a bunch of money missing from school funds, and they think he's been funneling it into some private account for years. Everyone started talking at once. It was like the floodgates had opened, and now the whole table was buzzing with gossip. One person was saying he might get arrested. Another was saying he'd probably leave town. Honestly, I didn't know what to believe, but it was all anyone could talk about for the rest of the day. When I got home, I was still kind of rattled by everything. I mean, it's not every day your principal gets accused of stealing a bunch of money and then disappears. But then, as I walked in the door, I heard Mom on the phone again. This time, I decided to really listen. She was pacing around the kitchen talking in this low, stressed-out voice. "I can't believe this is happening. If this gets out, it could ruin everything. I trusted him." There was a pause, and then she said something that made my stomach drop. No, he has photos. I'm not sure how many, but I can't let them get out. This could destroy my reputation." My brain practically short-circuited. Photos? What was she talking about? I leaned against the wall, trying to process what I was hearing. Was Mom involved in this somehow? Was Mr. Thompson blackmailing her? I mean, yeah, they worked together, but I never thought there was anything shady going on between them. It sounded like some insane conspiracy theory. After she got off the phone, I couldn't keep it in anymore. I walked into the kitchen and straight up asked her, "What was that about?" Mom jumped, not realizing I was there. "What are you talking about?" she asked, her voice a little too casual. "The phone call. You said something about photos and your reputation." Her face went pale, like ghost-level pale. "That's none of your business, Matt." Now, normally, I would have backed off. I mean, I didn't exactly make a habit of grilling my mom about her personal life. But this was different. Something was definitely up, and I wasn't going to let it slide. "Mom, come on. If this is about Mr. Thompson, I need to know what's going on. Everyone at school is talking about how he stole money, and now you're talking about him having photos of you? What's going on?" She stared at me for a long time like she was deciding whether or not to tell me the truth. Finally, she sighed and rubbed her temples. "Matt, this is complicated. Mr. Thompson and we were friends. We worked closely together for years. But a long time ago, before you were even in high school, he and I got involved." I swear my brain just shut down for a second. My mom had an affair with Mr. Thompson? That's not something you ever expect to hear. Like, ever. She kept talking, Probably because I was just standing there with my mouth hanging open. It was a mistake, okay? It didn't mean anything and it ended years ago. But apparently, he's been holding on to some old photos from that time. And now, with everything that's happening, he's threatening to use them against me. I didn't know what to say. My brain was doing gymnastics trying to process the fact that my mom, was mixed up in some scandal with our principal. And now this dude was blackmailing her because he got caught stealing money? I finally managed to say, "What are you going to do?" "I don't know," she admitted, looking more stressed than I'd ever seen her. "I have to talk to the school board. I need to get ahead of this before it gets out. But Matt, you can't tell anyone about this. Do you understand?" I nodded, but honestly, I didn't know if I could keep this to myself. I mean, how do you just sit on something like that? This wasn't just some minor drama. This was a full-on scandal, and now my mom was in the middle of it. After that conversation, I went up to my room, my mind racing. Everything was a mess. I didn't know what to think anymore. The whole thing with Lily, the stuff with Mr. Thompson, and now this huge secret about my mom. It felt like my entire world had just been flipped upside down. And the worst part? I had no idea what was going to happen next. So, after the whole thing with Mom and Mr. Thompson, I figured things couldn't really get any crazier, right? I mean, finding out your mom had some shady thing going on with the principal and that she's now tangled up in a scandal? Yeah, that's about as messed up as it gets. Or, at least I thought so. Turns out, there was still more coming. It was maybe a week or so after that conversation when I started noticing that Lily was acting different. And by different, I mean really different. Normally she's super quiet and keeps to herself, which I've always chalked up to her being, introverted or whatever. But lately she was taking it to a whole new level. She was barely coming out of her room. Didn't even come down for dinner most nights. And when she did, it was like she wasn't even there. Just kind of spaced out, eating in silence while staring at her plate. At first I figured maybe she was just going through some normal teenage girl stuff like stress about school or whatever. She's always been more focused on grades and college than I ever was. But then it started to feel off. Like more than just stress. It was like she was shutting down completely, and I couldn't ignore it anymore. One night, after dinner, I decided to check on her. Now, I don't usually just pop into Lily's room because, well, she's not exactly the let's talk about our feelings type. But this time I knocked on her door. No answer. I knocked again, louder this time, and still nothing. "Lily?" I called out, feeling kind of weird standing there in the hallway. "You good?" Still nothing. I don't know what made me do it, but I just opened the door. And there she was, sitting on her bed, curled up in this tight little ball with her back against the wall. She had her knees pulled up to her chest, and she was just staring out the window. It was dark outside, so all I could see was her reflection in the glass. Her face looked broken, like she wasn't even there anymore. "Lily?" I said, stepping into the room. She didn't even look at me, didn't move, didn't say a word. Just kept staring out the window like I wasn't there. I walked over and sat down on the edge of her bed, feeling completely out of my depth. I mean, what the hell was I supposed to say? I'm not good with this kind of stuff. Normally I'd make some dumb joke or mess around to lighten the mood, but this didn't feel like the time for that. "You all right?" I finally asked, even though it was a stupid question. Obviously she wasn't. For a long time she didn't say anything. I thought maybe she wasn't going to talk at all. But then, in the quietest voice, barely louder than a whisper, she said, "I don't know." That threw me. "What do you mean you don't know?" She hugged her knees tighter, her eyes still glued to the window. "I just don't feel anything anymore. I don't even care." Okay, now I was officially worried. Lily never talks like that. She's always been the responsible one, the one who's got everything figured out. Hearing her say she didn't care about anything, that was new, and not in a good way. I didn't really know what to say, so I just sat there for a minute, trying to figure out how to respond without sounding like an idiot. "Is it school? Like, too much pressure?" She shook her head, finally looking away from the window, but still not at me. "It's everything, Matt. I'm just tired. I'm tired of feeling invisible, tired of trying. What's the point? No one even notices." That hit hard. I mean, I knew things hadn't been great between her and Mom, but I didn't realize it had gotten this bad. And I felt like crap because, honestly, I hadn't noticed either. I'd been too caught up in my own stuff to really pay attention. "You're not invisible," I said, even though I knew it probably sounded hollow. "I notice, and I'm sure Mom doesn't care." She cut me off, her voice sharper now. "She's too busy dealing with her own mess. She's always been more focused on you. I'm just background noise." I wanted to argue, tell her she was wrong, that Mom did care, but part of me knew she wasn't wrong. Mom's attention had always been more on me, and maybe I'd never really seen how much it affected Lily. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. I should have been there more. I didn't realize, I didn't know you felt like this. She finally looked at me, her eyes red and tired. It's not your fault, Matt. You can't fix it. Maybe not, I said, feeling helpless. But I can try to be better. I don't want you to feel like this. Lily gave a small shrug, like she didn't really believe me, but at least she wasn't shutting me out completely. I don't know, Matt. I just feel so disconnected, like I'm floating outside of everything. That line stuck with me. Disconnected. It was like she'd already checked out and I was just now noticing. I sat there for a while, not really knowing what else to say. I didn't want to push her, but I didn't want to leave her like this either. Maybe you should talk to someone, I suggested. Like a counselor or something. She shook her head again. I don't want to talk to some stranger about my problems. It won't help. I didn't push it. I could tell she wasn't in the mood for that kind of conversation, so I just sat there with her, letting the silence hang between us. It was uncomfortable, but it felt like the right thing to do. Just be there, even if I couldn't fix anything. Eventually, she leaned back against the wall, her arms still wrapped around her knees. Thanks for checking on me, Matt. I know you're trying. It wasn't much, but it felt like a small step forward. At least she knew I was there, and I guess for now that was all I could offer. I'll always be here, I said, feeling kind of cheesy but hoping it meant something. She didn't say anything back, just nodded and went back to staring at the window. I sat there for a bit longer, then finally got up and left her alone. I didn't feel great about it, but at least I knew she wasn't completely shutting me out. As I walked back to my room, I couldn't stop thinking about what Lily had said, about feeling invisible, about not caring anymore. It made me realize that all this time, while I was so caught up in my own world, she'd been drowning and no one had noticed. And now I had no idea how to help her. After everything that happened with Lily, I knew I had to talk to Mom. I mean, I couldn't just sit there and pretend like everything was fine. It wasn't. Lily was breaking down, and the more I thought about it, the more I realized how much of it came back to how Mom treated us. I didn't want to admit it, but deep down, I knew she had always favored me. And now, it was all coming to a head. So one evening, after dinner, I finally decided to bring it up. Mom was in the living room, scrolling through her phone, probably reading some random article or gossip about the school scandal. I sat down across from her and cleared my throat, trying to figure out how to start. My heart was pounding, but I knew I couldn't chicken out. Mom, we need to talk, I said, probably sounding more serious than I intended. She looked up, surprised. What about? I took a deep breath. About Lily, about how you've been treating her. Mom blinked, clearly not expecting that. She put her phone down, looking a little defensive. What do you mean? I treat you both the same. I almost laughed, but it wasn't funny. No, you don't. And I think you know that. She frowned, crossing her arms. Matt, I love both of you equally. I've always tried to be fair. Really? I asked, feeling the frustration build up inside me. Then why is it that every time something good happens, it's always about me? Why are there 6 videos of my birthdays and barely any of Lily's? Why did you make such a big deal out of my graduation but barely even acknowledged hers? I mean, come on, Mom. It's not hard to see. She didn't say anything at first. Just sat there with this blank look on her face, like she was processing everything I just threw at her. I could feel my hands shaking a little, but I wasn't going to back down. Not this time. I've been thinking about it a lot, I continued. And I didn't realize it at first, but Lily's been hurting for years. She feels invisible, like she's just in the background while you focus on me. And honestly, I didn't notice either, and that's on me. But now I see it. And it's not okay. Mom shook her head, looking more frustrated than before. That's not true. Lily just doesn't like attention. She's always been more reserved. You've always been the outgoing one, so naturally... So naturally you gave me more attention? I interrupted. Mom, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Just because I'm more outgoing doesn't mean I should get all the focus. Lily works harder than anyone I know, and she doesn't even get a fraction of the recognition I do. She sighed, rubbing her temples like she had a headache. Matt, I didn't mean for any of this. I've always tried to support both of you in different ways. But it's not working, I said, my voice softer now. Lily's struggling, and you don't see it. She doesn't care about school anymore. She doesn't care about anything anymore. She's shutting down, and part of that is because she feels like you don't notice her. Mom looked away, her eyes downcast. I could see that she was trying to hold it together, but the cracks were starting to show. I I didn't realize, she whispered, almost like she was talking to herself. I thought she was fine. She never said anything. That's the point, Mom. She's never going to say anything. She's not the type to come out and tell you she's feeling ignored, but that doesn't mean she's not hurting. I could tell this was hitting her harder than she expected. She sat there for a long time, just staring at the floor, not saying a word. I wasn't sure if she was going to try to defend herself again or if she was finally getting it. After what felt like forever, she looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw something like regret in her eyes. I've messed up, haven't I? I didn't want to pile on, but I wasn't going to sugarcoat it either. Yeah, you kinda have, but you can still fix it. How? She asked, sounding completely lost. What am I supposed to do now? I shrugged, feeling a little helpless myself. Start by actually talking to her. Not just about school or whatever, but really talk to her. Let her know you're there. Show her that you care, even if she doesn't ask for it. Mom nodded slowly, like she was trying to wrap her head around it. I'll try. I'll talk to her tomorrow. That's all I'm asking, I said, feeling a little relieved. She needs to know you're in her corner. She needs to know she matters to you. Mom didn't say anything for a while, just sat there, looking more defeated than I'd ever seen her. I could tell this wasn't easy for her, and honestly, I wasn't trying to make her feel like a bad mom. But at the same time, this was something she needed to hear. Eventually, she stood up, her expression still heavy. I'm sorry, Matt. I didn't mean to make you feel like you were in the middle of all this. I didn't realize how bad things had gotten. I know, I said, standing up too, but it's not too late to make things better, for both of us. She gave me a small, tired smile. I'll try, I really will. I nodded, not really sure what else to say. It wasn't like everything was magically fixed now, but at least it felt like we were on the right track. And for the first time in a long time, I felt like maybe things could get better. As I walked back to my room, I thought about Lily. I hoped that Mom talking to her would help, that maybe it would be the first step toward fixing all the stuff that had been broken between them. I knew it wouldn't be easy, and I knew it wasn't going to happen overnight, but at least now Mom knew what was going on. At least now we were trying to make things right, and for now that was enough.